Have you ever heard a story so chilling it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? Tonight, we're taking a journey to Savannah, Georgia, a city known for its southern charm and haunting beauty. But nestled deep within its historic district, on a street called Willow Lane, lies a place with a story far darker than any ghost tale you've ever heard. This is the story of house number 312. From the outside, it looks like any other forgotten relic of the past. Weather-beaten wood, windows like vacant eyes staring into nothing, and a porch groaning under the weight of dust and decay. The neighbors cross the street to avoid it. Kids dare each other to touch the front door, but never do. They say the air around it feels heavy, colder, as if the house itself is holding its breath, waiting. But this isn't just an abandoned house. It's a place where a family's dream turned into an unimaginable nightmare. In the late 1950s, the Harrison family bought 312 Willow Lane. They were full of hope. Elijah, a hardworking father, Sarah, his loving wife, and their two young children, Lily and Sam. They saw a home where they could build a life, where laughter would echo through the halls. For a while, it was exactly that. Neighbors remembered the sweet smell of Sarah's pies and the sound of the children playing in the yard. But then, things started to change. Subtly at first, it began with whispers. Strange noises in the dead of night, doors creaking open on their own. The children, once so full of life, became quiet and withdrawn. Lily would talk to an imaginary friend she called the Shadow Man, who lived in the walls. Sam started having terrible nightmares, waking up screaming about cold hands touching him in his sleep. Elijah and Sarah tried to rationalize it all old house sounds and overactive imagination, but they couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that had settled over their home like a shroud. Then came the apparitions. Sarah was the first to see it, a tall, gaunt figure of a man standing at the end of the hallway, his face obscured by shadows. She'd blink, and he'd be gone. Elijah would find tools he'd left in one room, mysteriously moved to another. Objects would fly off shelves, shattering on the floor with no explanation. The once happy home had become a place of fear. The family was being terrorized by an unseen force, an entity that seemed to feed on their growing dread. They were no longer living in their home. They were trapped in it. The climax came on a stormy October night in 1961. A neighbor, woken by a blood-curdling scream, looked out his window to see the front door of 312 Willow Lane burst open. The Harrison family fled into the rain-soaked street, their faces pale with terror. They left with nothing but the clothes on their backs, never to return. They abandoned everything, their furniture, their clothes, their memories. They simply vanished from Savannah, hoping to outrun the horror that had taken over their lives. So what really happened inside 312 Willow Lane? Locals whisper that the house was built on unhallowed ground. Some say a cruel sea captain, who practiced dark rituals, died in the original structure that stood there centuries ago, his malevolent spirit forever tied to the land. Over the years, paranormal investigators have tried to document the activity. They've captured EVP's electronic voice, phenomena of a deep voice whispering, "Get out." They've recorded drastic temperature drops and seen shadowy figures darting through the empty rooms, but no one has ever stayed the night. The oppressive energy, the feeling of being watched by something hateful, is too much to bear. Today, house number 312 stands silent, a monument to the terror that drove a family away. The Spanish moss hangs from the trees like ghostly fingers, and the wind whispers through the broken panes of glass, carrying with it the echoes of screams and a story of a dream that became a living nightmare. Is it just an old, spooky house? Or is something truly evil still waiting inside, hungry for the next family to call it home? Some questions are better left unanswered. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the shadows. If you found this story as unsettling as I did, Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dailies from the dark side. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't go looking for Willow Lane. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into a story that will make you question every creak and groan you hear in your own home. This is the story of Maya and a house that was more than just empty. It all started on a crisp autumn afternoon, the kind of day where the air is sharp and the sun casts long, eerie shadows. Maya found herself standing before an old two-story house at the edge of town. It was the kind of place people whispered about, a house with a history no one wanted to remember. The paint was peeling, the windows were like vacant eyes, and a chilling silence hung over it like a shroud. She walked up the creaking wooden steps of the front porch. Her footsteps seemed unnaturally loud in the quiet air. We see a close-up of her feet, taking each step with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Reaching the heavy oak door, she raised a hesitant hand. The knock echoed, sharp and definitive in the stillness. Knock, knock. It sounded like a challenge thrown into the void. Maya waited. The silence that answered was profound, almost suffocating. The house remained still, unmoving, as if holding its breath. She was just about to turn away, convinced no one was home, when it happened. A low, groaning creak split the air. The heavy door, untouched by any hand, began to swing inward, slowly, deliberately. The house was empty. And yet, the door opened all by itself. A wave of cold air rushed out to greet her, carrying the scent of dust and decay. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to get as far away from this place as possible. But something else, a pull she couldn't explain, drew her in. She stepped across the threshold, into the dim, shadowy interior. The door swung shut behind her with a deafening slam, plunging her into near darkness. Panic flared in her chest. She fumbled for the doorknob, but it wouldn't turn. She was trapped. As her eyes adjusted, she could make out the faint outlines of furniture covered in white sheets, like ghostly figures frozen in time. A grand staircase loomed in the center of the hall, winding its way up into the oppressive darkness of the second floor. A whisper, faint as the rustling of leaves, seemed to slither through the air. It was a child's voice, singing a nursery rhyme she couldn't quite place. The melody was sweet, but the tone was filled with an ancient sadness. "Hello?" Maya called out, her voice trembling. "Is anyone here?" Only the unsettling silence answered. She cautiously pulled a sheet off a nearby armchair, sending a cloud of dust into a sunbeam slicing through a grimy window. That's when she saw it. On the dusty floor, almost invisible, were small footprints. Not her own. They were the size of a child's, leading from the base of the staircase towards a closed door under the stairs. The singing grew slightly louder, seeming to come from behind that very door. Against her better judgment, Maya followed the footprints. Her heart was a drum against her ribs. The air grew colder with each step. Reaching the small door, she saw the doorknob was an old, ornate brass handle. It was cold, unnaturally so. She took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. Inside was a small, cramped closet. It was empty except for one thing. Sitting in the center of the dusty floor was a single worn-out teddy bear. Its button eyes seemed to stare right at her, and a small, stitched smile was frozen on its face. As she looked at it, the singing stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from upstairs. It sounded like a heavy object had been thrown against the floor. Maya jumped, spinning around to face the grand staircase. The whispers started again, but this time they were all around her, a chorus of hushed, urgent voices she couldn't understand. They seemed to swirl in the air, growing in intensity. She knew she had to get out. She ran back to the front door, pulling and shaking the handle with all her might, but it was useless. The whispers grew into frantic, overlapping cries. Then, from the top of the stairs, she heard a sound that froze her blood. The slow, deliberate thud, thud, thud of footsteps. Someone or something was coming down. She backed away from the door, her eyes locked on the top of the shadowy staircase, unable to scream. A small figure began to emerge from the darkness. A child, but its movements were wrong, jerky and unnatural, and its eyes glowed with a faint, malevolent light in the gloom. The nursery rhyme started again, but this time it was a distorted, menacing chant. The house wasn't just empty, it was occupied, and its resident had been waiting for a visitor for a very, very long time. What do you think happened next? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Tales from the Shadows. Thanks for watching. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drum against my ribs. Dust motes danced in the single beam of my flashlight, illuminating a house frozen in time. Furniture lay shrouded in white sheets, like pale ghosts in the gloom. Cobwebs, thick as cotton, draped every corner, every forgotten picture frame. It was a place of memories, but they weren't happy ones. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of decay and something else, something electric. Then I heard it. A whisper, faint and chilling, seemed to slither out from the very walls. Come downstairs. It was barely there, a ghost of a sound, but it was enough to make the hair on my arms stand on end. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind, the old house settling, anything but what I knew it was. But the whisper came again, a little clearer this time, a cold invitation. My flashlight beam trembled as I swept it across the room, finally landing on the floor, and that's when I saw it. A faint, eerie blue light pulsed from beneath the floorboards in the far corner. It wasn't a natural light. It was soft, yet strangely intense, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to writhe and twist. It was like something was alive down there, breathing in the darkness below. A strange pull, a morbid curiosity, began to war with the raw fear coursing through me. The blue light seemed to call to me, just like the whisper. I took a hesitant step forward, my boots crunching on debris. The whisper grew stronger, more insistent. Downstairs. We've been waiting. It wasn't just in the air anymore. It felt like it was inside my head. The blue light flared, and for a split second, I thought I saw the shape of a hand pressed against the underside of the floorboards, fingers glowing with that same unholy light. I knew I should run. Every instinct screamed at me to get out of that house and never look back. But I couldn't. I was trapped, not by a locked door, but by a terrifying need to know what was waiting for me in the darkness below. Slowly, cautiously, I made my way to the cellar door. It was old, wooden, and sealed with a heavy iron latch. The blue glow was brightest here, seeping through the cracks around the doorframe. The whispers were a chorus now, a symphony of chilling invitations. With a deep, shaky breath, I reached out. My hand hovered over the cold iron for what felt like an eternity. With a final, resigned sigh, I lifted the latch. The door creaked open, revealing a set of steep, rickety stairs descending into absolute blackness, a blackness that was somehow pierced by that mesmerizing, terrifying blue glow. They were waiting, and I was going down. What do you think happens next? Let me know in the comments below. If you love a good mystery, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what we uncover. Thanks for watching. Have you ever felt that unsettling chill? That feeling like you're not alone, even when you should be? For Maya, that feeling was just the beginning. It all started with the basement door. Old, forgotten, its paint peeling like sunburnt skin, and its hinges groaning with the weight of years. A door that was always locked. Or so she thought. One evening, a strange blue light pulsed from the crack beneath it, a cold, ethereal glow that seemed to breathe. It drew her in. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. But before her fingers could even brush against the cold metal, she heard it. A soft metallic click. The handle turned, slowly, deliberately, all on its own. The door was locked. And yet it was opening. A wave of frigid air rushed out, carrying a scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and metallic. The blue light spilled across the hallway floor, painting everything in an otherworldly hue. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to slam the door shut and never look back. But a strange magnetic pull held her rooted to the spot. What was down there? What was creating that light? And more importantly, what wanted her to come inside? She took a hesitant step, then another, her sneakers silent on the wooden floor. The light grew brighter as she peered down the steep wooden stairs that vanished into the blue-black darkness. It wasn't a single light source, she realized. It was everywhere, clinging to the stone walls like glowing moss, pulsing in a slow, steady rhythm like a giant sleeping heart. The air was thick, heavy, making it hard to breathe. It felt electric, charged with an energy she couldn't comprehend. Down in the depths, shadows danced and shifted at the edge of the light. Were they just tricks of the eye, or was something moving down there? The rational part of her brain was trying to find an explanation, faulty wiring, a forgotten lamp, anything. But the cold dread coiling in her gut knew better. This was something else, something unnatural. She thought about the history of the house, the stories the old neighbors used to whisper. Tales of the previous owner, an eccentric inventor who disappeared without a trace decades ago. They said he was obsessed with bridging worlds, with opening doors that were meant to stay closed. Was this his legacy? This glowing, beckoning abyss beneath her home? The pulsing light seemed to call her name, a silent invitation into the unknown. The door was open. The path was lit. The only question left was whether she had the courage or the foolishness to see what was waiting for her in the blue-lit dark. She took a deep breath, the cold air burning her lungs, and placed her foot on the first step down. Whatever was in the basement, it was aware of her. It had opened the door for her. And now it was waiting. What do you think she'd find down there? An old experiment? A gateway to another place? Or something far more sinister? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you're hooked on this mystery, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The camera slowly pans down the rickety wooden stairs, each creak echoing in the oppressive silence. You can see your own breath misting in the cold, damp air. The flashlight beam cuts a sharp, lonely path through the darkness, revealing a vast, empty basement. The concrete floor is bare. The stone walls are sweating with moisture. There's nothing here. No boxes, no forgotten furniture, just a suffocating emptiness. But wait, as the light sweeps across the room, it catches something in the center. A small, solitary table. And on that table, a relic from another time, an old, black rotary telephone, caked in a thick layer of dust. The camera pushes in closer. You can see dust motes dancing lazily in the flashlight beam, a silent ballet in the stagnant air. It's an antique, something that belongs in a museum. The coiled cord is frayed, the rotary dial frozen with age. It's just an object, a piece of junk left behind and forgotten. It couldn't possibly work. There are no wires connecting it to the wall, no jack, nothing. It's completely isolated. A dead thing in a dead room. The silence is so absolute, it's almost deafening. You feel a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. Why is this here? Who left it? Suddenly, a piercing, shrill ring shatters the silence. The sound is impossibly loud, bouncing off the stone walls and drilling into your ears. Your heart leaps into your throat. The camera jolts, focusing shakily on the phone. It's vibrating violently on the table, the dust on its surface jumping as if alive. The ringing is relentless, a desperate, insistent scream in the darkness. It goes on, each ring more frantic than the last. The basement was completely empty, but this old telephone is very much alive. Every instinct screams to run, to get out of this place and never look back. But a morbid curiosity holds you captive. Who could possibly be calling? The logical part of your brain is screaming that this is impossible. There's no power, no phone line. It's a trick of the mind, a hallucination brought on by the creepy atmosphere. But the sound is real. The vibration is real. The terror is real. The ringing finally stops, plunging the basement back into an even more terrifying silence. The air is thick with anticipation. You wait, breath held, for what comes next. And then a soft click. The sound of the receiver being lifted, but you didn't touch it, no one is there. A low static hiss crackles from the earpiece, a sound like a whisper from across a vast empty ocean. And through the static, a voice begins to form. It's faint, distorted, and guttural. It's a voice that sounds like it's clawing its way out of a deep, dark grave. It says just one word, a word that freezes the blood in your veins and makes the hair on your arms stand up. It whispers your name. How does it know your name? You are all alone in the basement, or so you thought. The darkness around you suddenly feels heavier, more threatening. It's not just empty anymore. You can feel a presence, an unseen pair of eyes watching you from the shadows just beyond the reach of your flashlight. The voice on the phone was just the beginning. It was a lure. You came down here looking for something, but now something has found you. The real horror isn't the ringing phone. It's the answer you're about to get. The basement wasn't empty after all. It was just waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and if you're brave enough, follow for more. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that will send shivers down your spine and make you question everything you think you know about time, technology, and the afterlife. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a chilling tale of a connection that defies all logic. Imagine picking up your phone, expecting a call from a friend or a family member, but instead, you hear a voice from the past. Not just from a few years ago, but from decades ago. A voice that shouldn't exist. Our story begins with Maya, a regular young woman just like you or me. One rainy evening, she's at home, scrolling through her phone, when an unknown number flashes on the screen. She almost ignores it, thinking it's just another spam call, but some strange intuition makes her answer. As she lifts the phone to her ear, the world around her seems to slow down. The connection is terrible, filled with static and strange, glitching sounds. It sounds like the line is being stretched across an impossible distance. Through the crackling interference, she can barely make out a voice. It's faint, desperate, and sounds like a little girl. Maya asks, "Hello, who is this?" "I can't hear you clearly." The static gets worse, almost drowning out the sound. But then, a few words cut through the noise with chilling clarity. The little girl on the other end says, "You left me here." Maya is confused. She thinks it's a wrong number, a prank. She asks, "I'm sorry, who did you say I am?" "You must have the wrong person." The line crackles again, and the little girl's voice returns, this time with a haunting sob. "You left me here." In 1997, the year hits Maya like a punch to the gut. 1997. That was over 2 decades ago. Her heart starts pounding in her chest. Her hands begin to tremble. This couldn't be real. How could someone be calling her from 1997? It had to be a joke, a very cruel, elaborate prank. She's about to hang up, to dismiss it all as a technical glitch, when the voice speaks again, sending a wave of ice through her veins. The little girl says a name Maya hasn't heard in years. A name that belongs to a childhood friend who vanished without a trace back in 1997. Suddenly, this isn't a prank anymore. This is a nightmare come to life. The voice on the phone belonged to a little girl who was officially declared dead 27 years ago. How was this possible? Was her phone acting as a bridge to the past, or was it a call from beyond the grave? Maya is completely paralyzed by fear and confusion. Every rational thought in her mind is screaming that this is impossible. Phones don't work that way. The dead don't make phone calls. And yet, the voice, the name, the year, it all fit together in a terrifying puzzle. She starts investigating, digging into the cold case of her long-lost friend. The more she uncovers about that fateful year, the more she realizes the call was not a random occurrence. It was a plea for help, a cry from a soul trapped in time, reaching out to the only person who might still remember. The calls keep coming, each one revealing another piece of the mystery surrounding the girl's disappearance. It becomes clear that what happened in 1997 wasn't an accident. There was something dark, something sinister that was covered up. Maya finds herself caught in a terrifying race against time, even though time itself seems to be broken. She has to solve a 27-year-old mystery, guided only by the ghostly voice on her phone. But as she gets closer to the truth, she realizes that she's not just an observer. She's a part of the story, and the ghost from the past might be trying to save her from a danger that's lurking in her present. What do you guys think? Could a phone call really cross the barrier of time and death? Or is there a more logical yet equally terrifying explanation? Let me know your theories down in the comments. This story is a wild ride, and it makes you wonder about the connections we can't see and the voices we can't always hear. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this spooky story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that will keep you up at night. See you in the next video. Maya always thought the old house had character. The way the stairs creaked, the windows whistled in the wind, the strange drafts that seemed to come from nowhere. She told her friends it felt like the house was alive, breathing around her. They laughed it off, calling her dramatic. But tonight, that feeling wasn't charming anymore. It was terrifying. It started with a low hum, a vibration that seemed to run through the very bones of the building. Maya was in the living room, a half-finished book resting on her lap. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was a passing track or maybe the old plumbing acting up again, but the vibration didn't pass. It grew stronger, a deep, resonant thrum that made the water in her glass tremble. It was coming from directly below her feet. She stood up, her heart starting to beat a little faster. The polished wooden floorboards were visibly shaking now. She stared, mesmerized and horrified, and then it began. Right in the center of the room, a dark spot started to form on the wood. It wasn't a stain seeping up. It was something else entirely. The wood began to char, blackening from an unseen heat source below. Slowly, deliberately, the shape became clear. Fingers. A palm, a thumb. A perfect five-fingered handprint was burning itself into her floor. Wisps of acrid smoke curled up from the sizzling wood, carrying the smell of burnt oak and something else. Something foul and unfamiliar. Maya stumbled backward, a gasp caught in her throat. Her mind was screaming, trying to find a logical explanation, a chemical reaction, a bizarre electrical fire. But nothing made sense. The handprint was too perfect, too intentional. As she stared, frozen in place, a sound reached her ears. It was faint, a dry, raspy whisper that seemed to crawl up through the floorboards themselves. It wasn't just a sound. She could almost feel the words vibrating against the soles of her feet. And under here, the voice was thin like rustling dead leaves and filled with an ancient despair. Maya's blood ran cold. She backed away until her shoulders hit the wall, her eyes locked on the smoldering handprint. Who was under there? What was under there? The house had a small, dirt-floored crawl space, but it had been sealed off for decades. The real estate agent had assured her it was empty, just earth and foundation pillars. "I'm under here." The whisper came again, a little louder this time, more insistent. It was a plea and a threat all at once. The handprint on the floor seemed to glow with a faint, dying ember-like light before fading back to a flat, black char. The vibration stopped as suddenly as it had started, plunging the room into an unnerving silence. The only sound was Maya's own ragged breathing and the frantic pounding of her heart. She knew she should run, flee the house and never look back, but a morbid, paralyzing curiosity held her in place. What did it want? The whisper wasn't just a random haunting. It felt like a direct communication. There was someone under the floor, and their hand had just been burned. The thought was absurd, yet the evidence was right there, scorched into her living room floor. She crept forward, her fear battling with a desperate need to understand. She knelt down, her hand hovering over the blackened print, careful not to touch it. The wood was still warm. She pressed her ear to the floor, listening, waiting. For a long moment, there was nothing. She began to think maybe she'd imagined it, a stress-induced hallucination. Then the whisper came again, this time directly into her ear, as if the speaker was right on the other side of the thin plank of wood. "Help me. I'm under here." The voice was clearer now, filled with a chilling, desperate urgency. It wasn't a ghost, she realized with a fresh wave of terror. It was something trapped, something that was alive, or at least had been. And it knew she was there. Maya scrambled back, her mind racing. The sealed crawl space. The whispers, the burn. What unholy secret was this house built upon? She knew one thing for sure. Her life in this house would never be the same again. The character she once found so charming had just revealed its true, horrifying face. And it was beckoning her from below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have you ever had that feeling? That deep, chilling sensation that you're not alone in your own home? For me, that feeling became a terrifying reality. It started subtly, a flicker in the lights, a soft whisper carried on a draft you can't quite place. I dismiss it, of course. An old house settling, my mind playing tricks on me. But then the whispers grew louder, clearer. They started sounding like a name. My name, Maya. One evening, I was in the living room trying to lose myself in a book when the house truly began to wake. It wasn't a gradual creak or groan this time. It was a violent, bone-rattling shudder. The floorboards vibrated beneath my feet, a low hum that resonated deep in my chest. The lights didn't just flicker. They pulsed with an eerie, sickly blue glow, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to mock me. I froze, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. That's when the pictures started to fall. One by one, frames crashed to the floor, glass shattering into 1,000 tiny pieces, but my eyes were fixed on the wall. Every single photo was of the same girl. A girl who looked eerily like me, but she never aged. In every picture, from what looked like the 1950s to more recent Polaroids, she was the same smile, the same haunted eyes. My blood ran cold. Who was she? And why was her face plastered all over my family's history? Then a sound from the hallway ripped me from my trance. The basement door, it hadn't just closed. It had slammed shut with the force of an explosion, the sound echoing through the now silent house. Primal fear took over. I didn't think, I just ran. I scrambled for the main staircase, my only thought to get out, to escape this place that was no longer a home but a prison. The house fought back. As I sprinted up the stairs, the wood groaned in protest. I could feel the steps cracking and splintering under my feet, collapsing into the darkness behind me with each desperate leap. It was like the house itself was trying to swallow me whole, to pull me back down into its depths. A voice, not my own, echoed in my head, a cold, terrifying realization. The house was awake. and I had to get out. But getting out wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Every house has its secrets, but this one has a soul. A dark, possessive soul that doesn't want to let go. The girl in the pictures, the collapsing stairs, the voice in my head, it was all connected. I had to understand why. Why me? What did this house want from me? I started digging not into the ground, but into the history of the house, into the forgotten corners of my own family's past. Town archives, old newspapers, hushed conversations with elderly neighbors who remembered things people tried to forget. The story that emerged was darker than I could have ever imagined. A story of a girl who lived in my house decades ago. A girl who disappeared without a trace. A girl named Maya. The entity in my home wasn't just a random spirit. It was her, and she thought I had stolen her life, her name, her face. The house wasn't just awake, it was angry. It was her anger, her sorrow, her rage, manifested in the very walls and floors. She wasn't just haunting the house. She asterisk was asterisk the house. And she wanted me gone. But how do you fight a ghost that controls the very ground you walk on? How do you escape a prison that's alive? I'm still trying to figure that out. Every creak, every flicker of light is a reminder that she's here, watching, waiting. The question is, can I uncover the truth and pacify her spirit before she consumes me completely? Or will I become just another forgotten photograph on the wall? Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever experienced something you can't explain, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more unexplained tales. Stay safe. Every town has a ghost story, right? A local legend whispered by kids on playgrounds and retold around campfires. For us, it was the old Blackwood house on Elm Street. They said it was haunted by the ghost of a little boy named Leo. The story goes that he died in a fire there decades ago, trying to call for help on a rotary phone that melted in the heat. A tragic tale, but for my friends and me, Maya, Ben, and Chloe, it was just that, a story, the ultimate dare. One moonless October night, armed with flashlights and a misplaced sense of courage, we decided to finally do it. We were going to spend the night in the Blackwood house. The place was even creepier than the stories. Dust motes danced like tiny phantoms in our flashlight beams. The air was thick and cold, heavy with the smell of old wood and decay. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind through a broken window pane, sent a shiver down our spines. We set up our sleeping bags in the dilapidated living room, the grand fireplace a gaping black mouth. For the first few hours, it was all nervous laughter and spooky stories. Ben kept trying to scare Chloe, who was already on edge. I was trying to act brave, filming everything on my phone for our ghost hunting video. Then, around midnight, things started to get weird. A cold spot seemed to follow Chloe around the room. Ben's flashlight, with brand new batteries, flickered and died. We heard a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from upstairs. Thump, thump, thump. It sounded like a child's toy being bounced against a wooden floor. That's when we found the diary. Tucked away in a loose floorboard, it was a small, leather-bound book belonging to Leo. His childish scrawl filled the pages, detailing his life in the house, his love for his toy soldier, and his fear of his stepfather, a man he called the Shadow. The last entry was chilling. It was dated the night of the fire. Leo wrote that the Shadow Man was angry, that he'd locked him in his room, and that he could smell smoke. Suddenly, the tapping from upstairs stopped. A new sound replaced it, a faint, almost inaudible whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was a child's voice, pleading, "Help me, it's so hot." We froze, our blood running cold. This wasn't a prank. This was real. Then from the old, disconnected rotary phone on a dusty side table, a shrill, impossible ring pierced the silence. We stared at it, horrified. It rang again and again, relentless. On the third ring, I did something stupid. I reached out a trembling hand and picked up the receiver. The whispering voice was clearer now, desperate. He locked the door. I can't get out. Please. Help me. And then I smelled it. Smoke. Not the stale scent of an old fire, but fresh, acrid smoke. A thin wisp curled from beneath the door to the hallway. Then another. Panic erupted. We scrambled for the front door, choking on the thickening air. As I burst out into the night, gasping for breath, I looked back. The windows of the second floor were glowing an angry orange. Flames were licking up the side of the old house, consuming it with terrifying speed. We heard sirens in the distance, but we knew. We knew it was too late. The next morning, we watched from across the street as firefighters sifted through the charred remains. They pulled something small from the debris. A tiny metal toy soldier. A few days later, I was looking through the footage on my phone. As I replayed the moment I answered that impossible call, a new sound emerged from the static, a sound I hadn't heard that night. It was the same child's voice, no longer pleading, but filled with a hollow, heartbreaking calm. It said, "Thank you for answering, but you came too late." The legend of the Blackwood house was real. We didn't just hear a ghost story. We became part of it. And some nights, when the wind is just right, I can still hear a phantom phone ringing. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more strange stories. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that will make you think twice about ever going home again. We're talking about The Hidden Chapter, a film that has been generating some serious buzz for its unique take on the classic haunted house trope. The story kicks off with a chillingly simple premise. Some houses don't just sit and wait for people to find them. They actively call them back. The film introduces us to Maya, a woman haunted not just by spirits, but by her own past. Years ago, she fled her childhood home, a place filled with dark memories and an unsettling presence. She built a new life, thinking she had escaped for good. But as the movie's tagline suggests, the house wasn't done with her. It begins to pull at her, subtly at first a familiar scent on the breeze, a recurring dream of its decaying hallways, a name whispered in a crowded room. What makes The Hidden Chapter so terrifying isn't the jump scares, though it has its fair share. It's the psychological dread. The film masterfully blurs the line between supernatural forces and Maya's own unraveling psyche. Is the house truly sentient, a malevolent entity reaching across time and space? Or is it a manifestation of her unresolved trauma, a psychological prison she can never truly leave? The director uses this ambiguity to create a constant suffocating tension. We, the audience, are trapped right alongside Maya, questioning every shadow and every creak of the floorboards. The cinematography is just stunning. The house itself is a character. It's not just a backdrop. It's an active participant in the horror. The camera lingers on peeling wallpaper that seems to form faces, on dust motes dancing in slivers of light like lost souls, and on a grand, imposing staircase that feels like the spine of some ancient beast. The sound design is another key element. It's not about loud bangs, but the unsettling quiet, the sound of a lone clock ticking out of sync, the faint, almost imperceptible hum that seems to emanate from the very walls, and the chilling silence that follows a whispered name. As Maya is drawn back, she's forced to confront the event that made her run all those years ago, a family tragedy shrouded in mystery, the hidden chapter of her own life story. She teams up with a local historian who's been documenting the strange occurrences tied to the property for decades. Together, they start to piece together a puzzle that is far older and more sinister than Maya could have ever imagined. The house has a history of calling back its former residents, drawing them into a cycle of sorrow and despair from which no one has ever truly escaped. The film explores some really deep themes: the inescapable nature of family trauma, the idea that our past defines us whether we like it or not, And the terrifying concept that memory itself can be a haunting. Is Maya just remembering, or is the house forcing her to relive its own dark history? The performances are incredible, especially the lead. You can feel Maya's terror, her confusion, and her reluctant determination. It's a raw and vulnerable portrayal that makes the horror feel incredibly personal and real. So, is The Hidden Chapter worth the watch? Absolutely. It's a smart, atmospheric, and genuinely unsettling horror film that will stick with you long after the credits roll. It proves that the most terrifying ghosts aren't always the ones in the attic, but the ones we carry inside ourselves. It challenges you to ask, what if your darkest memories weren't just in your head? What if they were waiting for you, right where you left them, calling you to come back home? Let me know in the comments if you've seen it or if you're planning to. I'd love to hear your theories. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the best of film. See you next time.